The day Earth walked out of the Galactic Council was the day the stars learned fear. No weapons were drawn. No fleets deployed. No ultimatums issued. Just one man, Commander Rourke Maddox, stood before 73 alien species, pulled his translation implant from his skull, and said, "You've all mistaken our patience for weakness, our silence for submission, our diplomacy for dependence. So here's our final message. Good luck surviving without us, you bloated, bureaucratic parasites." And just like that, the humans vanished. What followed was not war. It was something far worse. Disorder by design. They said humans were too loud, too crude, too emotional to be trusted with galactic diplomacy. So Commander Rourke Maddox lit a cigar in the middle of the council chamber, boots echoing on marble as he paced past blinking delegates, ignoring the translator drone buzzing at his ear. He yanked the device free and let it clatter to the floor. "You think you've been managing us," he said, voice unfiltered and sharp. "Containment protocols, cultural redirection, economic throttling, psychological subversion. Cute stuff. Real subtle." A hiss from the Chorvax ambassador. The slimy diplomat twitched his facial fronds. "This is highly irregular." "You're damn right it is." Rourke turned on him, eyes blazing. "Because this time, we're not playing. You want compliance. You want us leashed. But you forgot one thing." Silence. The chamber shifted. Dozens of alien representatives, some reptilian, some crystalline, some pure AI, watched him with varying degrees of discomfort and fear. Even the Varelians, proud and predatory, leaned forward. "You forgot we're not here to be civilized," Rourke said. "We're here because we chose to give peace a chance. And you interpreted that as weakness." He stepped onto the speaking platform, boots thudding like a war drum. "So let me make this very simple. Effective immediately, the Terran Coalition withdraws from all galactic diplomatic accords. We're done. No summits. No negotiations. No enforcement." Panic spread like gas across the room. The Alari archivist dropped her notes. The Trekkan envoy's symbiote hissed and detached, scurrying toward a side door. The AI representative's holograms flickered as internal logic loops fired off error codes. Rourke didn't flinch. "You can't be serious," said a thin, translucent creature from the Zetarii cluster. "You provide half our enforcement fleet. Guess you better start learning how to hold your own line." Rourke muttered. A Grolak diplomat, twice Rourke's size and wrapped in ceremonial gold rings, rose and pounded the floor with a ceremonial staff. "If this is blackmail, you risk a united response." Rourke turned and grinned, teeth bared like a predator. "You wouldn't last a week united." He dropped a data chip onto the center console. "You want a reminder? Here's a list of every crisis we've stopped in the last 6 months. Every silent coup, plague suppression, border war. All cleaned up without fanfare while you played paperwork ping-pong." The chip projected a dizzying list in the air: failed secessions, mass unrest, pirate uprisings, some under council jurisdictions. The ambassadors watched in horror as their own suppressed failures scrolled by. "You knew?" the archivist gasped. You kept records?" "We had to," Rourke said. "Because nobody else was doing the job." A pause. Then the Clythan diplomat, a twitchy, translucent blob that pulsed with chemical signals, let out a long, angry ripple. "Then why abandon the peace you maintained?" Rourke didn't blink. "Because it stopped being peace. It became hospice care." The room froze. "You're all addicted to process," he continued. "You'd rather pass a motion than pull a trigger. You don't negotiate peace. You just delay collapse. And you think we'll always be there to mop up the blood." He turned to go. One of the delegates, a species that communicated via magnetic pulses, flashed a desperate sequence into the air. Rourke stopped. "No, we're not declaring war. We're stepping back. We'll handle our space. You handle yours. But chaos will erupt," said the Varelian ambassador, voice trembling. "You will condemn entire sectors to destruction. That's not on us. We gave you 30 years of free stability, Rourke said, adjusting the cuffs of his combat formal jacket. But if the only thing holding your galaxy together is us, then maybe you never had a galaxy worth saving. He left the chip on the table. Walked past rows of stunned faces. Past the Grolac envoy without looking. Stepped into the lift. As the doors closed, he heard the chamber behind him explode into overlapping voices, accusations, panic. The scream of dying order. Inside the lift, silence. His assistant, Lieutenant Kalai, stood stiffly at the back. Sir, you really just did it. Rourke lit another cigar. I told them. I warned them 3 years ago. No one listened. They'll retaliate, she said. Economically. Militarily. Politically. Rourke exhaled smoke. They won't know where to start. Back on Earth, the broadcast was already viral. Every major galactic channel spun theories, panicked analysis, desperate calls for clarification. In a war room buried deep beneath the Terran Defense Corps, 12 generals, 3 diplomats, and the Secretary of Planetary Stability stared at the screen. Was that sanctioned? The Secretary asked, blinking. Not exactly, muttered Admiral Wren. But it was expected. They turned to the chair at the center. Empty. A door hissed open. Rourke stepped in, still armored, still smoking. I'd apologize, he said, but that would imply I regret it. General Marr grinned. You just started a war without firing a shot. I didn't start anything, Rourke replied. I just stopped pretending. A silence followed. Tense. Heavy. Then the room burst into conversation, plans, scenarios, predictions. Chaos, not unlike the council chamber moments before. But Rourke just stood there, watching it all unfold calmly, like a man who'd seen it all play out already. Because he had. He didn't want this war. But he'd already won it. Have they started begging yet? Rourke asked, leaning over the war table. 3 council races have sent envoys to the Martian embassy, Kalai said, scrolling through encrypted transmissions. 2 more are threatening economic sanctions. The Varelians deployed a blockade drone near Cygni Prime. It's posturing. It's all falling apart. Faster than I thought. Rourke flicked ash into a steel tray. Good. Across the table, Commander Vasiliev shook his head. The Chorvax just lost a whole moon to a civil uprising. The Federation of 12 is down to 6. And then Sal are threatening to fire their planetary silencer if someone doesn't restore the old treaties. They don't have the codes for the silencer. We do. Rourke reached for a datapad. But let them shake. They thought stability was a human responsibility. Now they realize they were the children. We were the adult in the room. This is going to burn every bridge left, Vasiliev muttered. Then we build our own roads. Earth's Bureau of Intergalactic Disruption, codenamed BID, operated from below-ground bunkers with hardened quantum channels and AI-operated command maps. Their job wasn't to fight directly, it was to let the rest of the galaxy collapse on its own gravity. Kalai pulled up the latest briefing. We intercepted a council summit 2 days ago. They're planning a humanitarian mission to Kareth 4. Only it's not humanitarian. They're arming local rebels near our border and planning a staged massacre. They want a reaction, Rourke said. They're desperate to make you come back. Even if it means poking you into war. Rourke smirked. They think we still care what they think. We don't need to play by their rules anymore. He tapped into Earth's orbital network, brought up ODS, Orbital Dissuasion System. A classified deterrent platform orbiting a test world marked inactive on council charts. Let them come, he said. Let them touch what they don't understand. The signal went out. Remote priming initiated. Deterrence sequence on standby. No humans on site. No contact required. 2 days later, the council assault began. Cloaked dropships launched from 5 species under the false flag of disaster relief. Ground teams landed, weapons armed, news drones set to record the staged carnage. Then the sky opened. ODS activated in full power cycle. 4 moons and orbital satellites were vaporized instantly. Plasma rods fired from high orbit in patterns resembling geometric warning glyphs, ancient human war symbols. The Council task force never returned. Every diplomatic channel lit up at once. Demands. Screams. Outrage. Confusion. Rourke answered only one transmission. It was audio only. No emotion in his voice. This was a warning. Not retaliation. You sent war into a dead zone and expected innocence. You got consequence. He terminated the call. Vassiliev threw his hands up. You just erased 4 moons and 2 battle groups. I didn't fire. The deterrent did. It's an automated perimeter. They crossed it. It reacted. They'll see it as escalation. Good. Earth released no public statement. No explanation. Just silence. Which was worse than retaliation. Council-controlled media collapsed into contradiction. Some claimed Earth had become isolationist. Others insisted it had developed galaxy-ending weapons. Rumors spread about AI warlords and human gods buried in steel. The galaxy started flinching every time Earth blinked. Rourke watched it unfold like a man watching an old scar heal the wrong way. They had depended on humanity's tolerance. Now they saw what happened when it was withdrawn. In a private chamber beneath the command deck, Kali confronted him. You're enjoying this. I'm observing it, he said. No, you're orchestrating it. You wanted this chaos. I wanted them to learn. They called us violent, primitive, dangerous. So we gave them absence. And now they realize the alternative was never peace, it was silence before the storm. Kali folded her arms. And what comes next? A galaxy too afraid to breathe? That's your endgame? No. Fear's just the first stage. Rourke leaned forward. Next, they'll try control again. They'll send someone clever. They'll think if they can get to me, they can reset the board. Are you sure? I'm counting on it. Hours later, the warning came. A classified ping through dormant subspace sensors. A stealth insertion, highly illegal, barely detectable. No fleet. Just one operative, genetically modified, psionically enhanced. A Crovaxi Leech-class assassin. It was already on Earth. She's in Sector 9, Kali confirmed. Shadow-level clearance. She got past 2 sensor arrays. She's not here to kill you. She's here to map you. Clone you. Break you down and send the blueprint back. Rourke laughed. Perfect. He walked into the containment chamber alone. No guards. No armor. Just a datapad and a chair. The leech hissed, biological limbs unfolding from beneath its cloaking suit. It didn't speak. It scanned. I know what you are, Rourke said. You don't kill. You copy. You digest. The leech lunged. Tendrils wrapped around his skull. Neural threads pierced through skin, slicing into his cortex like knives of light. It paused. Something was wrong. Its body spasmed, vibrating, twitching. Red fluid leaked from its eye sacs. Its entire frame convulsed. Rourke stood unfazed. That wasn't a memory. That was a virus. Every crime, every betrayal, every secret the Council buried, we've been collecting them. Curating them. You just downloaded all of it. The leech shrieked, collapsing in a heap. Neural overload. Memory bleed. Sanity rupture. Rourke stepped over the body. Let her live, he told the medtech. Let her walk back to her masters. They'll want to hear what she saw. He looked back once before the doors closed. She'll tell them the truth, and they won't believe it. Then they'll see it for themselves. That's the beauty of truth, it doesn't need allies. It just needs to be delivered. Back in command, Rourke checked the star charts. Uprisings had started in 12 sectors. Trade alliances were fracturing. Species turned inward. Power vacuums emerged. He folded his arms. They had accused humanity of chaos. And now, stripped of Earth's discipline, they were choking on their own. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just watched it burn. She's in orbit, Kali said, not hiding the tension in her voice. Council hit team confirmed. One operative. Crovaxi Leech class infiltrator. Bioadaptive, psionic, unkillable if you're unprepared. Rourke didn't look up from his glass. Good. That means they're scared. They're not sending assassins. They're sending intelligence harvesters. This one's after your mind. He set the glass down. Then she'll get what I want her to get. You're not serious. She'll come for me. She'll link to my cortex, siphon everything she can hold, and in the process, become the Council's undoing. You booby-trapped your own brain? I filled it with rot. Genocidal secrets. Exposed manipulations. Their crimes. The cover-ups. The dossiers we've collected for 20 years. I don't need to expose them. She'll do it for me. Kali hesitated. What if it breaks you too? It won't. He stood, adjusted his coat, and stepped into the neural interface chamber. I've lived with the truth. They haven't. The Crovaxi leech entered the station undetected, bypassing security through phase drift and psionic cloaking. It reached the chamber as predicted, silent, skittering, barely visible unless you stared right at it. Rourke sat alone, head bowed, heartbeat slow. It lunged. Tendrils extended, puncturing his spine, coiling into the base of his skull, threading through synapses like liquid knives. She didn't ask questions. She fed unthought, memory, subconscious patterns. She saw battlefields, sabotage ops, confessions under fire. She dove deeper. Then she found what he left for her. The moment she accessed the deep core, her body spasmed. The implant fed her raw data, the Chorvax sterilization project. The Varelian slave caste breeding programs. The Trekkan neural weapon tests on civilian populations. The genocide of the Thenari people, covered up, erased from galactic archives. It kept coming. Planetary wipes. Genetic experiments. Black sites beneath neutral moons. Executions disguised as peacekeeping. She tried to sever the link. It was too late. Rourke opened his eyes, blood leaking from his nose. You want to know who we are? We're the ones who watched, remembered, archived. While you lied, we recorded. While you schemed, we studied. The leech collapsed, convulsing, screaming in a frequency that fractured glass. Data bled from her mouth like vapor. Rourke whispered, You opened the vault. Now go home and share what you stole. He left the chamber. His legs shook. Kali caught him at the door. Is she dead? She's alive, he said. But she wishes she wasn't. Later that night, the council chamber went dark. Emergency protocols engaged. Security AI lit up with anomaly alerts. Then the leak began. The Crovaxi leech, now irreparably broken, limped into the assembly hall and collapsed on the central dais. Her implants activated automatically, transmitting her entire memory stream to every secure council node. It spread in seconds. No containment protocol stopped it. The truth was out. A Varelian admiral pulled a weapon and shot himself mid-session. The Trekkan delegate detonated a core bomb, killing 9 other envoys. The assembly spiraled into riots. Ships disengaged from orbit. Civil wars ignited in systems that had once sworn unity. Rourke watched from orbit. Kali stood beside him. You just tore the council in half. He corrected her. I didn't tear it. I held a mirror up. They tore themselves. She watched the feeds in silence. Riots in Zorn Prime, the collapse of the Alari Cast Towers, the Chorvax revolt spilling across 9 sectors. They'll come for you, she said. They already did, Rourke replied. And now? They'll run. Fight each other. Try to erase what was revealed. But it's in their systems now. In the cloud. In the AI archives. Truth doesn't need allies. It needs exposure. What's next? We wait. But Earth. Earth is untouchable, he said. No one dares. Not anymore. We were the ones holding the seams together. They feared us because they knew we wouldn't let this happen. And now they've seen what happens without us. Another screen lit up. A former council world declared secession. Another declared martial law. Multiple fleets redirected toward internal threats. Rourke lit a cigar. You okay? Kali asked. No, he said honestly. But I'm used to that. You look tired. I spent 20 years holding a galaxy together through diplomacy, coercion, and threats. I've earned tired. He walked away from the console. Kali turned to the fleet ops screen. Terran command vessels remained in passive orbit, no weapons primed, no shields raised. Just watching. As if daring someone to blink. The council chambers were reduced to chaos. Delegates fled. Secretaries turned guns on themselves. Planets declared neutrality or defected altogether. Earth said nothing. Silence proved louder than war. Rourke sat in the observation lounge later that night, staring out at the fractured starfields. The galaxy had cracked under the weight of its own hypocrisy. He didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. Kali approached quietly. 3 more species surrendered their council seats today. 2 sent envoys to Earth. They're asking to join something new. Something honest. He didn't turn to her. Honesty comes with a price. They say they're willing to pay it. We'll see. A long silence followed. Finally, Kali said, The leech. She survived. I know. She's being debriefed on Trekkin Prime. They've declared an inquest into every black operation ever sanctioned. They're purging half their command. She's not done yet, Rourke said. She'll haunt them. Every time they try to lie again, they'll remember what they saw in my head. He leaned forward. I didn't have to kill anyone. I didn't have to fire a single weapon. I just let the truth in. And for the first time, he looked afraid. Because truth is the only thing more terrifying than war. Final votes in, Kali said without lifting her eyes from the display. Only 17 members showed. 9 abstained. 4 walked out. 3 tried to file a motion to delay, but no one's counting anymore. Rourke sat back, gloved fingers drumming the steel armrest. So the council's officially leaderless. Functionally dead. He nodded once. Let the galaxy feel that silence. Ships hung in orbit like shadows, human craft unarmed but positioned with surgical precision. Their presence alone shifted the entire calculus of survival. No threats. No speeches. Just waiting. Kali hesitated. They're calling for emergency peace talks. He didn't respond. She pressed. They want to meet. Not all of them. Just what's left of the core species. In person. At the assembly sphere. They burned that bridge. They rebuilt it overnight. Probably terrified you'll finish what you started. I didn't start anything. You ended everything. He stood and paced. They think if they can put me in a room, they can control the fallout. Walk it back. Patch holes with words. Kali handed him a datapad. They've cleared a chamber. No guards. No weapons. Only envoys. They're not calling it a peace summit. Just a conversation. They don't understand. There's no returning from this. You'll go, though. He glanced at her. She shrugged. You've never walked away from a loaded table. He pocketed the datapad. Notify Fleet Command. Keep our people out of weapons range. But don't flinch if they scan us. They will. I know. Hours later, the chamber was almost empty. Gone were the grand banners, ceremonial seating, diplomatic fanfare. Only a circle of tired-looking envoys remained, surrounded by blank walls and hollow tradition. No one wore insignia. No one spoke first. Rourke stepped into the center. They didn't rise. Just watched. Some with hate. Some with fear. Some with quiet desperation. He looked at them like a physician observing terminal patients. A Varelian envoy leaned forward. We didn't think you'd come. You didn't think we'd leave either. And yet. Another envoy, a shattered-looking Chorvax noble, spoke next. We've lost contact with 6 systems. 2 homeworlds collapsed. Religious uprisings. Infrastructure burnouts. Riots. Sounds like you should have invested in civilization instead of appearances. We didn't come to be insulted. You came to bargain with the arsonists while your house is still burning. The Varelian raised a hand. We're prepared to discuss new terms. Shared enforcement. Open technology treaties. Human-led stabilization units. No. A pause. You don't even want to hear. I said no. We're not interested in rebuilding the old order. We didn't walk out so we could walk back and through the servants' entrance. A younger delegate tried to sound diplomatic. Then what do you want, Commander? Nothing, Rourke said. You mistook our participation for dependency. You mistook our restraint for weakness. You mistook our silence for need. And now, stripped of all that, you finally ask what we want? He took a step closer, voice low and direct. We want you to understand that you were never in charge. Silence. Rourke tossed a black cube into the center. It pulsed with light, then projected a sphere, a new network, new council structure, new terms. No more consensus votes. No more empty declarations. No more committees that exist to do nothing. This is the new order. The Terran Galactic Stabilization Directorate. We don't negotiate peace. We enforce structure. The Chorvax envoy blinked slowly. You're suggesting we surrender. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating terms. Join it or don't. But if you oppose it, understand this. He tapped the side of his wrist. The chamber shifted. Above them, holographic projections lit the ceiling with the positions of Terran fleets across multiple systems. Not attacking. Just present. Watching. You've already lost the war for control. All that's left is whether you admit it. One of the elders, an Ilari matriarch with silver-streaked skin, stood shakily. We've seen your silence. We've seen your chaos. But we've also seen your order. And we admit, we can't hold this together alone. She bowed her head slightly. I will vote to accept. A few others followed. The Varelian hesitated. And if we refuse? Rourke stepped forward. Then your people will face a future dictated by whoever replaces you. Warlords. Fanatics. Collapse. We won't fire the first shot. We don't have to. Your own instability will pull the trigger. The Varelian's voice dropped. You don't negotiate. You coerce. We correct, Rourke said. Because this galaxy doesn't need another debate. It needs a backbone. He turned and walked out without waiting for applause or confirmation. He didn't need it. The decision had already been made. The real vote had occurred in the streets, in the riots, in the systems collapsing without human aid. All he did was name the truth. Back aboard his ship, he watched the assembly sphere shrink on the display. Kalai sat beside him, expression unreadable. They accepted? She asked. Most of them. The rest? They'll fall in line. Or fall. She looked at him. And Earth? What do we call ourselves now? He thought for a moment. Then, custodians. Not conquerors. Not allies. Just the ones who clean up when the Empire chokes on its own hypocrisy. She stared ahead. We became what they feared. No, he said. We became what they hoped they could manipulate. And now? Now they remember why humans were dangerous long before we ever lifted a weapon. The ship jumped to light speed, leaving the wreckage of old diplomacy behind. Kalai entered the observation deck without knocking. The last signatures came in 5 minutes ago. 27 species ratified the stabilization accord. 10 abstained. 4 refused. 2 fled. Rourke stared out at the void, arms crossed behind his back. Any of them useful? The ones who fled were ornamental. Legacy seats. Irrelevant. One of them still used ritual incense to authorize legislation. Then let them drift. She paused beside him. You just ended 600 years of political structure. No, he said. They ended it. I just let gravity finish the job. She watched his reflection in the glass. You're not celebrating. I don't want to rule them. I want them to understand we won't tolerate being ruled by them. The Accord names Earth as supreme enforcement authority. That wasn't my goal. But you signed it. Because someone has to be the spine. There was a silence between them that only people who'd endured a war without firing a weapon could understand. It wasn't quiet. It was loaded. She cleared her throat. What happens to the holdouts? They're welcome to try their luck. There's a galaxy of ruins out there. Power vacuums waiting for fools. Let them build something and watch it devour them. And the ones who joined? They get protection, structure, and a mirror. If they look away from what we showed them, it happens all over again. She crossed her arms. They still fear you. I'm not here to be liked. They think you manipulated everything from the beginning. I gave them choices. I just didn't protect them from the consequences. She took a step closer. You knew the leech would survive. That she'd broadcast the Council's rot. I needed her to. You never wanted the old Council to collapse peacefully. They were never going to collapse peacefully. You can't reason with a structure built on denial. You dismantle it or you let it rot. I just sped up the clock. Another pause. She exhaled. I read the early files. Back before you took command. They offered us a ceremonial role. Advisory status. 1 seat on the ethics board. They wanted us neutered. Smiling in the corner while they bled each other dry behind closed doors. They said we were too emotional. Too reactive. Dangerous. They were right. He finally turned. But emotion isn't a weakness. It's a weapon. And when directed, it breaks empires. A soft chime interrupted. Fleet AI spoke. Incoming diplomatic relay. Encrypted. Origin, Virelian Sovereign Enclave. Rourke raised an eyebrow. Put it through. A shimmering figure emerged. Thin, insectoid, faceplate cracked. It was the Virelian envoy who challenged him days ago. I was told you would listen if I kept my pride to myself. Rourke said nothing. The envoy shifted awkwardly. You were right. Without you, we tore each other apart. Our colonies are rationing water. Piracy is up 600%. Refugees are flooding neutral space. You still think we wanted this? Rourke asked. No, the envoy said. I think you expected it. There's a difference. We want to submit a formal application to the Accord. Our delegation will cooperate with all structural reforms. Accepted, Rourke said. But you'll operate under probation. We'll assign oversight. Fail once, and you're out permanently. The envoy hesitated. Are we forgiven? Rourke's voice dropped. This isn't about forgiveness. It's about evolution. The feed cut. Kalai let out a slow breath. You could have crushed them. But you didn't. They're more useful scared and functional than dead. You sound like the old council. He turned sharply. No. They ruled by illusion. We rule by consequence. We don't pretend everyone's equal. We act like everyone's accountable. She looked down. I was there. At the beginning. I believed in diplomacy. So did I. What changed? They tried to destroy us without ever declaring war. He walked to the console, brought up a star map. Red flares marked systems in collapse. Yellow marked recovering sectors. Green, those who had accepted the new order. We don't call this an empire, he said. We call it structure. But don't mistake language for mercy. This galaxy will remain stable because it fears what happens when we walk away. And if we walk away again, they won't survive a second silence. She nodded. You planned every step. I adapted. That's different. They'll tell stories about you. I hope they tell the truth. He picked up a small holodisk, one of the first memory records from Earth's entry into the Council. A younger version of him, idealistic, smiling at some peace conference that resolved nothing. He held it for a second, then slipped it into the disposal chute. Kali gave him a long look. Do you regret it? Regret implies I had a better option. She hesitated. Do we become tyrants next? No, he said. Tyrants demand loyalty. We demand responsibility. She walked with him to the exit. So that's it? The galaxy bows and Earth ascends? No, he said as the door opened. The galaxy rebuilds. Or it burns. But now it does so with its eyes open. They stepped into the corridor, leaving the stars behind. Behind them, the map pulsed, bright spots spreading slowly, like order reclaiming chaos one light at a time.